Forget the old gospel of more ads, more partners, more money. Kurt Donnell, CEO of Freestar, says less is smarter, cleaner, and more profitable. He walked away from Adtech for yoga, came back, and now runs a company keeping journalism alive while trimming the fat from a bloated industry. From AI hype to hot dog debates, this episode of the ADOTAT Show is proof that sometimes subtraction is the real growth hack.
Multi-billion-dollar complex federal court litigation. We do it day in, day out. And we've built a team dedicated to doing nothing but keeping you safe in the most dangerous litigation in the world. We're comfortable where everybody else is horribly uncomfortable.
And with the litigation piece, we bring the compliance piece, right? That's what I'm adding. That's what my entire team is adding. We've built TCPA World only for you folks to help.
And now the host of the ADOTAT Show, the Dean of Data, the Rabbi of Roez, the Prince of Performance, the Sultan of Strategy, the one, the only. Give us a huge applause to Pesach Lattin!
Welcome to the ADOTAT Show. I am Pesach Lattin, unapologetically curious, and your host today, where we ask marketing ad tech leaders the kind of questions that make PR teams sweat. My guest today is Kurt Donnell, CEO of Freestar, a man who once ditched ad tech for yoga and then came crawling back like a DSP to a high viewability publisher. So first of all, how are you? You went from shante to OpenRTB, from a yoga company IPO dream to the caffeinated chaos of ad tech. What did you miss, or what did you inhale?
Well, I started out my career as a lawyer. That was not the calling. Went in-house at She Media back in the day. Learned digital media. Had a moment where I think many of us had done this in ad tech. We're like, well, we're not curing cancer here. What's the point of this? Left thinking I was going to go find some peace, love, and harmony in yoga, and found a very interesting industry. It is often run by folks that are very passionate about the yoga side, but not necessarily business folks on that side. There are some really good operators, so I don't mean to throw people under the bus. And then often you find some folks in yoga that have some needs in life and almost an addiction, if you will, and it becomes this interesting guru-follower relationship in some ways. So it's kind of a strange industry. And what I realized, we did take the company public, went and did a bunch of acquisitions. I was in charge of that and flying all over the country taking yoga. It kind of became white collar factory work. And I'm really, really bad at that. When I get bored of doing the same thing, even if it's interesting, and I miss the chaos of ad tech and a different challenge every 3 months or 6 months, and definitely came crawling back, and I've really enjoyed the last 6.5 years, back in the fray.
So what did you expect yoga leadership to be like, and what punched you in the face and made you go, no, ad tech is actually saner?
I think there's a lot of people, I kind of alluded to this a moment ago, where it started out as kind of a hobby for them or a passion, and they turned that hobby or passion into a job. I think there's that thing in life where you're supposed to, follow your passions and you never work a day in your life. I don't think that's true. I think you have to do something that you're pretty darn good at and you'll be successful, which will be more fulfilling in life, but also your business is going to be more successful. And so I think there's a number of folks that turned what probably should have stayed a passion or a hobby into a job. And it was interesting to see that. There certainly were some really good operators, but trying to put together this, national chain of more traditional yoga studios and everything proved to be a bit more difficult than anticipated when it came to the integration of the studios and kind of the operations, to be frank. Putting in place process and procedures and something that's run from a little more feel and community is a little bit difficult, I will say.
So do you think your break from the industry gave you a unique lens, or just a great icebreaker for industry dinners?
Both. Certainly some good icebreakers. What I think it gave me was an appreciation of why ad tech is valuable. I left, like I said, thinking we weren't curing cancer or anything. I came back because I realized it's important. We got to keep the world's information free. And the fact that I get to build a company now that pays, on my staff, 200 mortgages and sets of rent. And for the publishers who represent thousands of those is important. And we get to keep journalism flowing. We work with a number of news sites that honestly have gotten unmonetized to some extent. And the opportunity to help keep that front and center, particularly in a world with AI news popping out there and fake news and echo chambers. I think that's an important thing. And it was easy to miss before. I'm like, I'm just putting spots and dots on a page, to flipping back to, no, I can actually help people grow here. The other piece is like getting to be a mentor to a bunch of people on the team. I've said this to many folks, probably not going to be my last job, certainly not going to be the last job of a lot of people on my team. And if I can give them the opportunity to grow inside of Freestar and become great human beings that they can then take other places and help other people grow, there's real value in that. And I can lay my head in the pillow, pretty peacefully, that we're doing something, even if it is putting ads on the internet.
So hypothetically, you were offered $10 million to run a kombucha brand. Are you in, or just the lure of CPMs too strong?
Oh, I do love kombucha. My wife asks me every week, like, what do you need at the store? And it's popcorn and kombucha are the only two things that I say every week.
Have you ever made your own?
I have not. No, I've not gotten
My
that
wife
far.
bought the kit because she's done it before. So
Okay.
it's sitting there.
If last touch attribution worked, your waiter would take full credit for your meal. We make sure the chef gets credit too. Incremental.
For like 2 years now.
Yeah,
kit.
I've got that same
Not
kit
being
in
used.
Yeah, I got the same kit and the beer brewing kit are sitting next to each other in a cabinet somewhere. Easier to buy.
Along with the
Would I go
sushi
run
roll
it?
thing.
Is it a good existing brand, or do I have to go start? I don't think I'm going to go beat GT Dave at kombucha. If I get to go join him, it could be kind of fun. I love a good adventure, but I don't know. The CPM game is working for me. I think it's important to go try to be the best at the thing you be the best at. And if somebody else is doing a great job, kind of let them have their swim lane. So probably sticking to CPMs right now.
So what do you think most people misunderstand about what we actually do in ad tech besides everything?
I don't know if it's the ad tech as much, but it is how much ads make the world go round. My kids even will be playing the game like, I hate ads or everything. I'm like, well, A,
Right.
that pays your mortgage. B, the access to the world information is a value exchange of information for advertising. We've done a terrible job in particularly traditional digital media of telling the story of that value exchange. TV and all the ad supported things that are happening right now, I think it's more evident, and that exchange is clear. Like, you can pay for this or you can get ads, then you get content, but you don't get the content otherwise. I don't think we did a good job of that in digital media. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I have that light bulb moment with people of like, I hate ads. And then you explain the whole thing to them like, okay, I guess I get it now. And so it's probably it's going down the street, it's out of home, like how much advertising really drives the world.
So Freestar went remote before it was cool, or maybe it was just forced by COVID. How do you build a culture across time zones when the closest thing to bonding is a Slack emoji reaction?
We were 60 or 70% remote before COVID started. I came in as a hired gun CEO beginning of 2019. Business had been growing nicely, but in the best way, the co-founders realized bringing some operational change would probably be a good thing. So we had offices in Phoenix, where both you and I actually live, and then in New York and LA. And I was lucky enough when I got here, that video was already on in every meeting. So that was a little bit of the culture. We were trying to hire in New York and LA, and it was expensive as could be. And I had the chance to work remotely at that yoga company previous to this and knew that it could work. So convinced begrudgingly, David, the founder, that we could hire somebody not in the office that actually would work. And so we had gotten to a pretty good spot before COVID started. And then obviously COVID pushed us all in on that. And so we became 100% remote. What I think matters a lot in a remote culture is that camera on thing. Cannot stress that one enough. You have to have mandatory cameras on. So while you're not in the same room, you can still read some level of the emotion and the body language and those things. B, uncomfortable transparency with people. I think you have to over communicate. And if you want people to act like adults and show up and do their work, you got to treat them like adults. And with that, probably overshare a little bit on the good, bad, or ugly of how things are going. How are the finances? How are things like that? And they'll know that you're a little more genuine. And C, you got to be there for them, even if it's remote. Everybody on my team knows they can call me, Slack me, text me anytime. And then I go get on an airplane and fly around and, take people to baseball games and see them and kind of fill up that tank of, wait, this is still a real place with real people. We do, while we're remote, we've got teams in New York and in California, and everybody gets together every month. So I think you got to fill up that in-person tank a little bit so that you can still get credit when you need to ask for that tough favor or whatever that is down the road.
So how do you sniff out bad cultural fits remotely?
There's a couple elements. I think during the hiring process, we all know it's often a coin toss, and people are very, very good at putting on a face in an interview. We use some data on this. We use a tool called Culture Index that gives us a very good read on people's innate personalities, which are locked in somewhere between the age of like 9 and 12. Unless you have a spinal cord injury, it never really changes. So we get a read on the person that way. It's A&M putting out the whole thing. I think if you ever get a chance to get people to do real work, pay them to come in and do a project, have them sit with your engineering team and co-develop or even brainstorm for several hours. That's the best thing you can do. Alternative to that, go really hard on referrals. References, I should say. Referrals are the best source. And then references, and try to get people talking and suss out when it's like not somebody's friend that they asked to be the referral or reference. Like, get it to be a real boss that was there. I got saved from hiring an accountant. This woman was great throughout the entire thing, put on a good show. I called the referencer CEO, and he goes down the first 2 minutes. He's like, she was great. And he goes, listen, man, I'm not going to lie to you. I wish somebody had done this to me. She was awful. I had to fire her in the middle of a meeting. She was doing this and that. Like, thanks, man. Like, I really appreciate that. You helped me just absolutely dodge a bullet. And if you've ever got a sense or somebody's on the line for us in the culture thing or a weird work history, go get those references and get enough of them. And you can really hopefully avoid, the painful mistakes.
So hypothetically, one of your execs wants to host a team building yoga retreat on a llama farm in Peru. Do you say yes? And why might that be exactly the culture win that no one expects?
Heck yes. I'm all in on that one. I think anytime you can put people in unique scenarios and out of their comfort zone, you're going to get better bonding between the team, and you'll share some ridiculous thing that becomes, your internal meme, if you will. But B, you sometimes get people out of their comfort zone and thinking differently and talking differently and all of those things, and building that real personal relationship and trust, even in a remote environment, is still so wildly important. We've had that happen. We've done a number of acquisitions, had people join, executive team leave. We've noticed that a smaller executive team is better, and a smaller executive team that's been through some crap, whether that's a llama yoga retreat or one of the tough times in the business, is always going to operate better together because you've been in the trenches. So I'm all for putting people outside of their comfort zone, whether in the work setting or outside of it. I've never been on one of those, though. Sounds kind of fun.
So what's the weirdest cultural moment that became a cornerstone in the company?
How important, whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich to our business. I would say about every other all hands, there is some new evidence put into the discourse of whether a hot dog is a sandwich or not. We spend way too much time on that one, which is strange. And then we did
my
a
local
pretty
restaurant
amazing
here took it and they sliced the hot dog and put it on a hamburger bun and called it a hot dog burger. I saw this yesterday and I thought that was just wrong.
It's okay. So your team, it is not a sandwich with me, I hope.
It's a dog in a bun.
It lives
the
on
sandwich
its
has to be
own.
between two pieces of bread. I don't know what hot dog buns are exactly, but
I mean, it's a tough one.
you can't put
like
anything else in a hot dog bun either, can you? Besides hot dog and bratwurst and stuff.
And you take a hot dog out of the bun, what is it? It's still a hot dog. Like, it stands alone. It is its own unit of food. So we spent way too much time, and that's become a entertaining piece of the culture. I think given our Arizona roots, we've got a little love of the cowboy lifestyle. We did our first full company retreat in years and flew the whole company from all over the world.
Yeah, I think I saw that photo and I was going to look into it and see if this was actually your uniform or something else.
Yeah, I wear chaps every day. It's kind of my thing. No, that was really
it's
fun.
Arizona. We all wear chaps and baseball caps. I mean, and cowboy hats all the time.
Yes, it's true. But I don't know, just kind of keeping our roots from not being this like tech company Silicon Valley thing, and it is a little more scrappy and startup-y, and we like our desert roots.
So moving on to from humans to machines, let's talk a little bit about AI. It's everywhere. It's like glitter, our crypto bros. Everyone's claims is making things better, but how do you tell the real value from the snake oil wrapped in machine learning wrappers?
So I am a believer in AI when used to really make things better. Like, in the analogy I've been playing with is it needs to be the frosting on the cupcake, not the sprinkles. Sure, they look nice or anything, but they really don't add much value there. And I think it's figuring out, is the AI being used to help us exceed human potential? Does it add value to my life, or is it something that actually makes the interaction worse? I think we've all had those moments, particularly of late, where you're on with a chat bot and I'm like, God, I wish I could just talk to a human right now. This would be so much easier if I could get a person, but you're stuck in this AI loop or whatever that is. Those are the moments that drive me nuts. So I think it's finding that balance of, where does it add convenience versus creepiness? I've always said that, like, this convenience versus creepiness scale. My Gmail one time knew I had a flight and I got a pop-up saying, hey, traffic's heavier than usual. You should leave right now. And I'm like, man, that is certainly on the creepiness versus convenience. And I think AI sort of falls in that boat. Like, is it making my life harder or better? And it does both in certain instances. So I think it's finding that balance.
So can you give me an example where simplifying fewer ads, cleaner formats actually increased revenue?
Yeah.
Because, more cowbell isn't always the answer.
More is always more is not the truth anymore. I mean, we've been talking about that a lot inside of Freestar. I think you and Heather, our CRO, had a discussion about that too. I think in the best way, the flight to quality we've seen from cleaning up MFA and everything, cleaning up supply paths, is extending now to inventory quality too. That's the content ratio, bringing those down. And, an easy example is take out 2 display ads, put 1 video ad in. You've brought down ads to content, but probably increased RPM there. We've even seen instances where just simply reducing the ad footprint in general has brought CPM up enough that it offset any RPM loss there. And so it's always a balance of those things, but we are seeing buyers want and being able to talk with a much finer, sort through with much finer tooth comb, the quality inventory versus not, and they're willing to pay for it. You just can't water down your supply with too much crap. And in the best way, they're hunting with sniper rifles, not shotguns now. I think that is a big change where they've got enough signals on the buy side to pick what they want, more specifically that they weren't necessarily either purposefully or, knowingly doing things by burying their head in the sand.
So what's one thing you think AI should never be used for in ad tech, but someone's probably going to do it anyway?
In ad tech, I've seen some bad examples of AI use. I saw something pop up where they made these AI miniature soccer players in China that played a kid-sized soccer game, and they were just like tipping over and everything. That was a very bad use of AI. Inside of ad tech, I think the human element of problem solving and innovation in those things, you can't lose. I think in onboarding, having a proper onboarding with another human being there to help you along and build that trust and get through the bumps in the road, because there's always bumps in the road. You can't replace the machine. You can speed portions of it, but I think still having that human touch and knowing that there's somebody on the other side of the phone to call is irreplaceable. And so while we can use AI to help, I think having that human overlay on the top is wildly important. I don't know that I've seen anybody try to do that. We're a little further from the buy side. I think some of the automated buying is really good. I think some of the creative creation from AI could go wild without the right human oversight. But I think it's that same balance I said, like, let it help us exceed human potential, but not replace humans in the things they're really good at.
So what's the weirdest pitch you've seen about AI?
The weirdest pitch. I don't know if in ad tech I've seen it. Again, that the robot soccer players was probably the weirdest AI thing that I've seen so far. That one really struck me this weekend.
I dislike the outreach AIs that seem to not know who I am. Like, people are pitching the AI outreach program and just randomly emailing me like spam. And that makes me wonder, how great is that AI?
With you there, the amount of times I get outreach. So we represent about 1,000 sites exclusively on the monetization side. The amount of outreach I get from competitors, monetize freestar.com, even though that's my business, they want to run ads on my website, is a pretty bad use case for it that pops up far more than we'd like to admit as an industry, probably. So a little bit of marketing automation there, but the AI piece of that is still not great. And some weird optimizations that are trying to talk about my interests, like, not working very well.
Yeah, I had a digital marketing conference that said they could not get me out. They could not stop emailing me because they didn't know how to use the AI. They put my name in there, and I kept on asking, please stop emailing me. And they're like, we actually don't know how to.
Mm-hmm. That's the machines taking over, right? Like, we still need to have that human overlay on things, like help you out, but not take over.
So moving on from the robot uprising, let's talk a little bit about M&A and the land of too many logos. You've made 2 acquisitions, Triple 13 and Sortable, and you sit on a market ripe for consolidation. So what's the number one efficiency that you'd like to see erased from the industry with a well-placed acquisition? Why haven't you done it?
We've done those and a couple other smaller tuck-ins. We're certainly looking at it. I think the ad management space is an interesting one, super diverse. There's a handful of us that are pretty scaled. And then when you look across the world, dozens of them that are very small. And we've continued looking at those. In some instances, and this isn't just, the ad management space, I think this is a broader ad tech thing. There's a lot of companies building the same thing, and there's some platform value to it. But if you're acquiring something that's similar to you, an SSP buying another SSP, us buying another ad management company, are we buying tech that we're going to use, or are we just acquiring a customer base? And if it's in a customer base, it's a depreciating asset to some extent, right? Like, they can grow to some extent, but it's going to churn over time. So I think that's caused some challenges in that. As we look at the ecosystem, we've certainly looked at all the other folks in the space and, continue to have some of the conversations. Where I think it's interesting, though, is the ancillary services businesses, things like content analytics or email or something else that publishers need that we can be more full service for them is always of interest for them. And then anything we can do to drive traffic, of course. And so I think that kind of goes to the content side of things. How can we help them and feed insights into it? Not necessarily provide AI content creation per se, but help them get smarter about things. How do things monetize? What are the audiences that we need to build more of? How do we make them more loyal? And just help people work smarter. I think that's something that, we're looking at trying to do more of.
What does actually ripe for consolidation mean? Is there an example of a segment that's like 2 quarters away from imploding?
If it's imploding, but I think you and I both would agree that we don't need 70 identity providers and 70 SSPs and all of these things that play similar roles. And then taking that even a step further, what's the future of the DSP versus the SSP in the next couple of years, right? Each of them have reached across the aisle and started talking to the other person's customer. I think there becomes a layer, and there's probably 5 to 10 companies that play. You had Andrew Solly on recently. He goes very hard on this is a tech layer, credit card company type thing. Other people, I think, do add value and curation, whether it's a buzzword or not. There is an element of putting together the right audiences for advertisers and helping them do things they couldn't do that's valuable. I just don't know that we need 30 different flavors of that. And I think everybody's stealing a piece of the pie. It gets a little inefficient. You get race to bottom on fees versus building a few really good businesses that there's ample competition to keep people honest, but at the same time, not flooding the market where we feel like we have to do everything and test everything was really not necessarily adding incrementality. And so I think there's that. And the internet's been around for only 25 years in real commercial sense. Like that's not old for an industry. And this happens. Like you grow up and then you get to a point where you get some horizontal consolidation and then some vertical consolidation. It happens time after time. I think we're getting close to that point. Maybe it's not this year, but in the next 3 to 5.
So multiple choice question here. What is the real reason many ad tech companies haven't been bought? A, their tech is a spaghetti pile. B, their books smell like dead fish. C, their founders still think they're building the next Google. Or D, they propped up by 3 large advertisers and 2 PR stunts.
Wow. You got to mix them in there. I think each one has its own unique
It's a trick
challenges.
question. It's E, all above.
Yeah, it's all the above. The other thing I think that we had was a lot of businesses were growing like crazy coming out of COVID, raised money at ridiculous valuations at that time. Things slowed down. We thought we were going to have the perfect economic year this year, and then it's been a little bumpy. And so I think people have been waiting to try to time the market a little bit is another element of it. And kind of going to my earlier point, people probably overestimating their platform value a little bit and trying to get credit for where things are going to go versus being honest that this is a trailing 12-month EBITDA market. What have you actually done profitability, not what's on the come.
So if you could acquire one type of company to supercharge Freestar, what would it be? Tech, data, services, or just maybe a psychic ad forecaster?
I'm a psychic ad forecaster, man. My crystal ball sucks right now. So if you got one of those for sale, I'm all in. I would say kind of what I said earlier on the content side of things. How do we help publishers get smarter there? How do we help them maintain their audiences, grow those, and make those more loyal? Something that we've really focused on at Freestar is working with sites that provide real utility. How do we help them provide more of that? Keep the audiences stickier, more front door traffic, not just relying on referrals. It's kind of a lore that I don't know if Eric Schmidt exactly said it, but like Google doesn't owe anybody a business model. Neither does Facebook. And it gets talked about like they do. I think the flip side of that coin is AI, really. If it's going to go scrape the content and then use it themselves to monetize, that may be different. But publishers need to build their own kind of front door, real business, create value. And if there's ways that I could find ways to do that by giving them better tools, I think that would be the best thing I could do.
So 5 years from now, how many ad tech logos will be left on the Lumascape? Or what percentage will be gone?
I think you could remove 50% probably tomorrow without any loss of incrementality or signal. I think, as I said, that whole DSP, SSP layer, I don't understand how we got here. Everybody's building businesses and this was slightly unique or not. Like that's sort of changed. The identity space, everybody was trying to figure out what was going to happen. I think there's going to be there already are some clear winners there. I'm not going to throw anybody in the bus, but like there's clear winners and losers in that game. And a lot of those things are going to start to fold and we'll see some press releases of people that got, acquired because it was a nice way to put the tombstone in there. And I think that needs to happen, but that's a market maturing. Everybody's chasing to go solve a problem and there's winners and losers in that. I think it's a lot in those two spaces, particularly. I think in the ad management space where we play, there'll be a little bit of it, but probably more in the identity DSP, SSP layer.
So moving on, matching supply of demand is like speed dating in the dark, except with NDAs. What is the secret sauce to making it work without everyone walking away disappointed and underpaid?
I mean, I think a lot of what's happened lately is the cleanup of the supply side, getting rid of a lot of the MFA. It's not all the way gone, but trying to put money in the pockets of the real content creators that are doing good things, good editorial work, spending the money to do it the right way. I think that helps. I think, like I said earlier, the ability to hunt with a sniper rifle, not a shotgun, I think is important, where the DSPs, we'll get calls or texts of like, hey, we noticed ad to content ratio we don't like on this site. Can you fix this? Rather than just banning all of the supply, let's clean up the supply because it's going to match what I want. They've got an audience I want, but it doesn't necessarily hit our other KPIs. I think folks like Gamera are trying to tell that story a little bit of matching up the quality of the supply versus the performance on the other side. And I think it's getting those signals right that we need to do when, again, maybe people were purposely burying their head in the sand because everybody was making money hand over fist and didn't care. Maybe it was we didn't have the right tools, but in any event, I think getting those things better aligned and frankly, working closer with the trade desk on our side, we've got more rapport with them. We can teach them some things. They can teach us some things. And I think it's opening up those lines of communication that were pretty bifurcated for a while. where it was, advertiser to agency, agency to DSP, DSP to SP, SP to publisher, but never really talking super close in that chain. The more conversations we have, the better we can fix it for everybody.
How has OpenPath changed your approach?
It was good. We were very early in that process. I think the win rate from the trade desk went up kind of 3x in their bidding. We saw CPMs from them jump, I think, over 20% when that came on. And maybe the most important piece was the one I just alluded to, was that better, closer relationship with them where we can understand, what are they looking for? What are they trying to build? And the flip side is, when they were trying to build it, they didn't quite understand what a publisher needed necessarily from the data we needed to run our business, and being able to share that more efficiently from the reporting standpoint, how things really work in OpenRTB and everything. I think it was a good co-learning process with everybody, but we certainly saw an increase in spend from them. And interestingly, not to the detriment of the other SSPs. It truly was incremental, has remained that way from what we can tell since.
So how much of demand side inefficiency is just per communication?
I think a decent amount of it. I don't think we're speaking the same language, and I don't know exactly what KPIs I'm necessarily trying to hit, because that's 2-3 layers removed from what we're doing most days. And I think if we can get better aligned on that stuff, I can give you the audience or the experiences or whatever that is, more that hit those KPIs versus guessing. Floor pricing is an interesting one where, you kind of make the other side guess, they bid below it and all of that stuff, and kind of aligning on what, maybe floors are a bad example, but just better communication on the different side would help a lot. I don't think the inefficiency is necessarily fancy names. I think curation is moving some dollars from other places, but that should be going through the programmatic pipes, not through direct sales pipes that are pretty inefficient. So whether we put the name on it, I think it is driving toward efficiency overall. I don't know if it's injecting tons of new dollars into the ecosystem, but they should be flowing through better, easier to optimize pipes from my standpoint.
So what's one optimization trick that you swear by that most of the industry is sleeping on? Something actionable and maybe controversial.
I think it is the more is not always more. I think you can make your internal operations easier by trimming down to the partners that are really adding value. For the longest time, more has always been more. And we've been systemically removing people over the last couple of years. We've been removing ad units. We've seen performance improve. It's kind of antithetical to everything that's been going on for a while, where it was just throw more ads at it, throw more demand, duplicate the bids more time. There is a balance there, and this is something that does kind of drive me nuts, is there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes we send the same bid through 3 different paths. Why does it work so much better through one? And I get it. There's different signals to that. The person that loves efficiency in me hates that side of it, but I do think more is not always more. And we've been really preaching that. And I don't know that that's crazy to think about, but I think people are scared to test that of how do you run the test removing, ads to see if it actually works out. It takes jumping off the cliff a little bit to do that, and talking to the supply side and being clear to them, if you're going to see things change, let me know how that looks on your side. So I don't know if that's crazy, but I don't think people necessarily look at it through the same lens as much.
Now, the most fun part of our interviews where we throw you on a desert island where Wi-Fi is flaky. You got sunscreen, a solar panel, and 5 people. Who are the 5 people that you picked?
Okay.
And yeah, everyone chooses Bear Grylls, as you should know. Not everyone, but most everyone.
Yeah, Bear Grylls, just, I don't know, another great survivalist. I probably would have got more creative if I knew one, but I'll go Bear Grylls for whatever that is. I'll bring my wife. She is truly my best friend. I would say my kids, but I want them to go spread their wings and do a little more than a desert island. I think I would bring Sahil Bloom, the author. He's my favorite newsletter writer, and his new book is great, and I think it'd be fun to chat with him. I think I like my life entertaining. I'd bring Dave Chappelle for the laughs. I think he'd be amazing and a fascinating guy. And then the last one, I guess it's kind of 2 people, but if I could bring at least Duddy from the Dirty Heads, the band, he can be the musical entertainment, give us some island vibes. If I could bring Jared along too, that'd be great. But those are my 5.5.
So what job does David Chappelle do? Does Dave Chappelle do? Is he chief morale officer or just distraction from the dread?
I think you can get rid of some of the existential dread. Morale stays up. I think we'd have fun. We'd build a fire out on the beach. We'd have the guys playing some music and Dave entertaining us all. We'll have some deep chats with Sahil over on the other side. I think it would just be an interesting group of people to see where the conversation went.
Say Bear Grylls dies. Who's your backup survival strategist? I'm sorry for killing you, Bear.
I hate to pat myself on the back, but I think I step into that role. I'm like a pretty crafty guy. I grew up, held just about every job under the sun, from a baker to a carpenter to an electrician to a roofer, and tossed the LSAT class, was a lawyer, or this, that. I can do about anything. I can build you just about anything. So I'll take that role if I got to.
I can honestly say I know nothing about Dirty Heads. Let's just assume Duddy from Dirty Heads is jamming. What song would become your theme song?
So it's
Your
a
team's
reggae
theme.
rock band, reggae rock
Okay.
band, think sort of sublime-ish, if you will. I think it's got to be the song Island Glow, which might be the world's best pirate-themed reggae rap song ever made. It might be one of one, but I think he's playing Island Glow for me.
Pirate reggae rap. Is that literally what you said?
It is
I
a
got to look this up at this
pirate-themed
point.
reggae rap song. I mean, we're throwing you in a blender here, buddy. Go give it a listen on Spotify. It's good.
So how long before you and your wife start a firewood-based argument?
Well, day one, until I build like a Ritz level hotel room, thrown under the bus here a little bit, but until we get the accommodations sorted out, she'd be pretty frustrated. And I think I could get that done. And give me a couple weeks. Bear and I will go get that done.
So if a genie came and rescued you, but you had to leave one person behind, who would it be?
Oof.
And obviously you can't say your wife just in case she's watching.
Yeah, we will not do that. I'm kind of a no man left behind type person. Like one of our core values at Freestar is we, not me. And I think I would send everybody off as much as I could. And then I'd have to try to figure it out and scratch and claw and get out alive myself. Otherwise, it's like a pretty serious game of paper, rock, scissors. But
What do you think that says about your leadership style and about you?
I mean, I said it a moment ago, the we, not me thing, I was lucky enough to inherit that as one of the core values when I walked into the company. But I think we've really brought it to life. Like I always used it's not your trash on the floor. It's not my trash on the floor. It's our trash on the floor thing. Like really do believe that. And I'll be the first one cleaning up after the holiday party, staying around late to do that stuff. And I think that's important. I think most companies are a reflection of their leaders, whether or not you realize it. And that's the good and bad side of it. On the bad side of it, things aren't going well. It's probably your fault. On the good side, if people are kind and working hard and care about each other, it's probably on you a little bit too. And so I think that no man left behind thing sort of permeated my life. Maybe it's the Midwesterner in me or something, but I think that's a trait we have at Freestar a lot. Everybody's really in it for each other, which is great.
So a little bit about you personally, when your KPIs are turned off and you're just left with bourbon and your brain, who's on your personal board of directors? Give me a name and one brutally honest thing they've told you.
It's interesting. There's a guy, kind of a blast from the past. I think I've only actually met him in person once or twice, but he helped me get my first job at She Media, a guy named Keith Benici. He was at Evolve Media back in the day, had been a lawyer turned corp dev guy. And interestingly, whenever I've had kind of career moments, I've actually called him because we've had some fascinating conversations about things. He's there, certainly my wife, family, a couple other friends here in town. But I think some of the interesting things they pointed out to me is to ask, are you running toward a new opportunity or are you running from an opportunity? And I think there's moments where you get frustrated in a job where, any ship passing in the night feels good. I guess sticking with our island theme on this, but I want to go do this. I want to do this. And you kind of talk yourself into it when in fact you're actually running from something, not towards something. And when they grounded me in that of like, do you really, really want this? And you go build that, little T chart of like pros and cons to things and make you sit down and think about it. You can catch yourself from making some mistakes by having that external view.
So what's one piece of advice that you give often to people, but you actually are really bad at taking yourself?
I think the importance of going slow to go fast. I do think it is an important thing. In moments you need to pause to do that. I'm really bad at going slow. I want to go fast on everything. Like, give me the info. Let me sort through it quickly. Let me make a decision and I'm fine being wrong. I think others maybe have different ways of processing things. I say that a lot and I do mean it. Like in my heart of hearts, I think there are moments you need to do it. I just don't do it very much myself. That and the importance of sleeping, stopping working and sleeping. I just like to work and not sleep. So there's that.
You also mentioned that you want mind reading as your superpower. What would you use it for?
Find out where my wife wants to go to dinner. Probably is the number one reason in the business context. I think it's always a challenge to find out sometimes what customers really want. They will say things sometimes. You give them the information to show that you're meeting that KPI or beating whatever on the A/B test. And then they just make another change. And you're just like, where did that come from? Understanding what people really want. I'm like sort of obsessed with behavioral economics and psychology and fascinated with why people make decisions. And I guess sort of a superpower of mine. I'm normally pretty good at that, but there's moments where I'm just lost. And I wish I'm like, what is the thought process going on over there?
So let's just say you're 85, retired and sipping mezcal. What do you hope your younger self never forgets?
Time with my kids and my family right now. My kids are getting a little bit older. They're turning 11 and 13, certainly not old, but just that I only have so much more time with them. There's a stat that's something like you spend 90% of your time with your kids by the age of 18. I certainly hope to prove that statistic wrong and flip it to at least 75-25. But the thing that I want to remember and be hopefully proud of is that I spent the time. And while I worked a lot, outside of that, I made the point to be there for them and help them learn and help them grow and show them the world and let them blossom. That's probably the most important thing to me right now. Not right now.
What do your kids say you do?
For work? Ruin the internet? Probably. No, they've listened to way too many calls. My son, if you ask your kids to do impressions of you, I get like, oh, EBITDA, but like they just make fun of me. They hear my CEO, who is affectionately known as Pookie in our house. I love you, Matt Wells. He and I have a lot of phone calls on the way to baseball practice and everything. And so they hear all sorts of things about the business. And so I think they have gotten a sense of what it is, and they've seen a lot of travel and hard work that goes into it. But the flip side is the benefits of the places we've gotten to go and drag them. They came to Cannes one year. I don't think it would ever come back, but got to tie that in with a nice Europe trip. And they understand, I think, the value of hard work and then, the pros and cons that come with it.
And last question, what do you want your legacy in ad tech, not yoga, to be?
Hopefully that I brought some humanity to it and brought the people part into it, that it's not just tech talking to each other, that the people part of it's important, and that we built a new set of leaders that got to go out and flourish after this Freestar adventure's over, and that they then built some great cultures and pushed that forward. Obviously, the world's going to continue to change with AI, but it was done thoughtfully and with a human touch to the whole thing. I think that's important. And just that people know that I showed up and, pardon my French, gave a shit, like that I was here for them to try to do the right thing the best that I could, made loads of mistakes along the way, but that I tried, and then I tried to do it the right way, played the long game, and, didn't cut the corners. Like, I've joked that we're the least shady ad tech company, and I'm proud of that. It's a good thing to try to do things the right way.
And now where we get ad tech leaders to dance. That was not the song I was going to use. But now we got Cuban music. Not the song I chose.
That's a wrap on this episode of the ADOTAT Show. From yoga cult boardrooms to the header bidding trenches, Kurt Donnell reminded us that more is the most overrated word in ad tech. Fewer partners, fewer ad slots, fewer excuses, and suddenly CPMs rise, publishers breathe, and culture actually works. He's proof that leadership isn't just about quarterly numbers. It's about keeping journalism alive, mentoring the next wave, and yes, occasionally wasting too much time debating if a hot dog counts as a sandwich. A huge thank you to our sponsors, Troutman, Armin LLP, and Incremental.com, for helping make these conversations happen. Stay tuned, stay bold, and remember, in ad tech, subtraction might just be the new innovation. Stay bold, stay curious, and know more than you did yesterday.